My name is John, and I'm sharing the story of my brother, Marcus Thompson, and a traffic stop that shook our city's police department to its core. Marcus is a man who's spent his life proving people wrong, not with words, but with actions. At 42, he's the head of internal affairs for the Richmond Police Department, a position he earned through decades of grit, discipline, and an unshakable commitment to justice. But to Officer Brian Daniels, on that humid August evening in 2024, Marcus was just another black man driving a nice car in the wrong neighborhood. That assumption, and the events that followed, would unravel Daniels' career and spark a reckoning in our community. Marcus has always been the kind of person who carries himself with quiet confidence. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood, he and I faced our share of challenges: absent father, overworked mother, and a system that didn't always give black kids a fair shot. Marcus was different, though. He was the kid who studied late into the night, who joined the police academy not to wield power, but to change things from the inside. Over 20 years, he climbed the ranks from patrol officer to detective to internal affairs, where he took on the tough cases, corruption, misconduct, and officers who thought they were above the law. By the time he was appointed head of internal affairs, he'd built a reputation as a man who didn't bend, no matter who was in the wrong. That evening, Marcus was driving home from a long day at the station. He'd just wrapped up a meeting with the chief about a new initiative to address bias in policing, a topic he'd been pushing for years. His black SUV, a recent purchase to celebrate his promotion, was clean and nondescript, nothing flashy. He was on a suburban road just outside Richmond, not far from his house, when he noticed the flashing lights in his rearview mirror. Marcus pulled over, calm as always, and waited. He knew the drill, not just as a civilian but as a cop who'd seen how these stops could go. Officer Brian Daniels approached the driver's side window, his flashlight already beaming into the car. Daniels was a 15-year veteran of the force, known among colleagues for his aggressive style and a string of complaints that never seemed to stick. Marcus lowered his window, hands visible on the steering wheel, and greeted Daniels politely. "Good evening, officer. Is there a problem?" Daniels didn't return the courtesy. "You are going 45 in a 35, he said, his tone sharp. "License and registration." Marcus knew the speed limit was 40 and he'd been driving under it, but he didn't argue. He handed over his documents, including his department-issued ID, which clearly stated his rank and position. Daniels glanced at the ID, then tossed it back onto Marcus' lap. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered. Marcus stayed calm, though he later told me he could feel the situation escalating. "Officer, can you tell me why I need to step out? I've provided my ID and registration." Daniels' jaw tightened. "I don't need a reason."
"Out. Now."
His hand rested on his holster, a move Marcus recognized as intimidation, not protocol. Marcus complied, stepping out slowly, his movements deliberate. He's 6 feet 1 inch, broad-shouldered, but he kept his posture non-threatening, hands visible. Daniels, shorter and stockier, seemed to take Marcus' compliance as a challenge to his authority. "You people always think you can talk your way out of trouble," Daniels muttered, loud enough for Marcus to hear. The comment hit like a punch, but Marcus didn't react. He'd heard worse, and he knew reacting would only give Daniels what he wanted, an excuse. Instead, Marcus asked, "Can you clarify what you mean by you people?" Daniels smirked, stepping closer. "You know exactly what I mean. Driving a car like this in a neighborhood like this? Where'd you get it?" Marcus kept his voice steady. "I earned it. I'm the head of internal affairs for the Richmond PD. You saw my ID." For a moment, Daniels faltered, but he doubled down. "Doesn't mean anything.
Could be fake."
Turn around, hands on the hood." He gestured toward the SUV, his hand still near his gun. Marcus complied, but not before saying, "Officer Daniels, I'm going to ask you one more time to confirm my ID through dispatch. You're making a mistake." Daniels ignored him, patting Marcus down with more force than necessary. A small crowd had gathered, neighbors drawn by the flashing lights, some recording on their phones. Marcus noticed, but stayed focused. He knew this wasn't just about him. It was about every black driver who'd been profiled, every person who'd felt the weight of a badge used as a weapon. He also knew he had the authority to turn this around, but he wanted Daniels to dig his own grave. Daniels radioed for backup, claiming he had a non-compliant suspect. Within minutes, another patrol car arrived, and Officer Lisa Carter stepped out. Carter, a younger officer with a reputation for fairness, took one look at Marcus and froze. She'd worked under him in internal affairs before his promotion. "Sir," she said, her eyes darting between Marcus and Daniels. "Is everything okay?" Daniels snapped. "Stay out of this, Carter. He's giving me trouble." Carter hesitated, then spoke into a radio, requesting a supervisor. Daniels' face reddened. "What the hell are you doing?" "I've got this under control," Marcus spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Officer Carter, please verify my ID through dispatch. I'm Marcus Thompson, head of internal affairs." Carter nodded, stepping away to make the call. Daniels, realizing his control was slipping, started to bluster. "You think you're some big shot? I've been on this force longer than you've been playing cop." Marcus didn't respond. He stood by the SUV, hands still on the hood, waiting. Within minutes, the dispatcher confirmed Marcus' identity, and a sergeant arrived on the scene. Sergeant Ramirez, a no-nonsense veteran, approached Daniels. "What's going on here?" Daniels started to explain, but Ramirez cut him off, turning to Marcus. "Mr. Thompson, are you all right?"
"I'm fine," Marcus said.
"But Officer Daniels needs to explain why he pulled me over for a non-existent violation, ignored my department ID, and made racially charged comments." The air shifted. Ramirez's face hardened as he turned to Daniels. "Is this true?" Daniels stammered, claiming Marcus was argumentative and suspicious. But Carter, who'd been listening, spoke up. "Sarge, I saw the ID. It's legit." Daniels didn't check it properly. Ramirez ordered Daniels to stand down and told Marcus he was free to go. Marcus nodded, got back in his SUV, and drove home. But he wasn't done. The next morning, he filed a formal complaint with Internal Affairs, his own department. He didn't want revenge. He wanted accountability. Daniels' actions weren't just a personal slight. They were a symptom of a deeper problem Marcus had been fighting his entire career. The investigation moved fast. Marcus recused himself to avoid any conflict of interest, but his team was thorough. They pulled Daniels' body cam footage, which captured the entire exchange, including his "you people" comment and the aggressive pat-down. They interviewed Carter, Ramirez, and the neighbors who'd recorded the stop. The videos, which had already spread on social media, showed Daniels' hostility and Marcus' restraint. By the end of the week, Daniels was suspended without pay, pending a full review. The story didn't end there. The traffic stop became a local news story, with headlines like "Racist Cop Targets Top Official." Community groups demanded reform, and Marcus was invited to speak at a town hall. He didn't want the spotlight, but he saw an opportunity. At the meeting, he addressed a packed room of residents, officers, and city officials. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about a system that lets officers like Daniels act with impunity. We need training, oversight, and consequences, not just for one stop, but for every person who's been profiled or harassed." The town hall led to action. The department implemented mandatory bias training, and Marcus pushed for a civilian review board with real power. Daniels was eventually fired after the investigation confirmed multiple violations, including racial profiling and misuse of authority. His personnel file, which Marcus' team reviewed, revealed a pattern of complaints over the years, mostly from Black and Latino drivers. Most had been dismissed or ignored. That changed under Marcus' leadership. For Marcus, the incident was a reminder of why he does what he does. He could have let Daniels' actions slide, could have chalked it up to just another bad cop. But that's not who he is. He's spent his life holding people accountable, even when it's hard, even when it's personal. The neighbors who saw the stop now look at Marcus differently, not just as the guy who lives down the street, but as someone who stood up and made a difference. As for me, I'm proud to call him my brother. I've seen him face down challenges most people couldn't handle, and he does it with a calm that I'll never understand. That traffic stop wasn't just a clash between one officer and one man. It was a moment that forced our city to confront its flaws. And Marcus? He's still out there doing the work, making sure the system doesn't just bend, but breaks in the right places.